What? Yeah, that was my fault. That was all my fault. But that is the most comfortable I've been on the top, and I just kept making mistakes. I wasn't running the top like I should have been. Come on, James, get yourself a top 5, man. Honestly, I think I would have been better if I would have went with a 34 here. Because I felt like there, if I had to lift, I couldn't get back in the throttle enough in order to make it work. You know what I mean?
What's up, everyone? Corey here from Aussie Sim Commentator. How are you doing out there today? Welcome to Output Racing League, race number 7 from the Dover International Speedway. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you happen to be in the world watching. Now, this is the first race post-update, and as you can see, some of the cars out there will start to look a little bit different. We no longer have the Ford Fusion. We now have the Ford Mustang available to use for the drivers. As we go and have a look at Jaron Sanchez, who is indeed running the Ford Fusion. Running a Menards paint at the moment. Not his usual output racing scheme, but similar colours to what we usually see him in. But doesn't the Mustang look fantastic? Alright guys, so very shortly we're going to head out onto the track so we can show you guys a little bit of the Dover Speedway here. And yeah, we'll have some fun with the broadcast tonight. We talked to the guys before we started the broadcast, and we've come to the agreement that if they have a big crash, we're going to start getting some post-crash interviews, which should be pretty exciting. Alright, so let's head out onto the track and let's see if we can get ourselves a pit party started here.
Pit party, pit party, pit party.
Alright, we're going to wait for everyone to go by. We're going to be at the back of this pit party. Looks like we're starting to roll.
Car inside. Still on the left. Clear inside.
So Dover is quite the tricky little track. It's fully concrete all the way around. And you definitely got to watch the exits of the corners. So the exit of 2 and the exit of 4 for the car to really get tight. You've also got to watch for the wheel spin on start.
Car inside. Clear inside. Car inside. Still on the left. Still on the left. Still on the left. Clear inside.
So the wheel spin's not too bad at the moment. Oh, as we already seen, a 3-wide situation there go bad.
Stay left. Stay left.
On the opening lap with the cooler weather that we've got for this session, you can hold it flat on the turn 1 and 2 there.
Car inside. Still on the left. Clear inside.
We've got Brian Pizzakemi coming up on our inside there. We're going to look at filing in behind him to get underneath Mark Penticuff. Doesn't look like we're quite going to get it. Oh no! We got him. We've accidentally killed Mark. My apologies to Mark there. He was just down from the wall a little bit and I accidentally got him. As you can see, there's a couple of lines you can take. If you can hold it around the outside, then that's pretty good.
23.194.
If not, then it could mean a lot of disaster.
Slow car up high. Stay left. Stay left. Car outside. Clear outside.
So yeah, we've got a little bit of contact that's going to actually hurt our car a lot.
Looks like you knocked the toe out there.
So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to stop.
We got no choice here. We're going to have to bring
And we're going to go back out on the track again so I can show you guys a pit entry, because the pit entry here is probably one of the hardest that we have on the schedule. Now, I don't have enough bravery to hold it flat in 3 and 4 there coming out of the pits. Some of the drivers do, and it's really given them some quick times. But we're here to focus on this pit road entry. You really want to get down onto the apron pretty early. In turns 3 there. And there we go. We got it slowed down quite nicely actually in the end there. You can come down off the middle of 3 and 4, but you just got to make sure you let everyone behind you know what's coming up. As we're going back to watching the practice now. We've got the 7 of Brian Harris on screen, and then it's changed to the 16 of Charles Becker. It's interesting to see some of these schemes coming out this week. Got a lot of really nice looking cars. Some of the guys still haven't organised paints for their Mustangs yet, myself included. But it'd be interesting to see what the guys have in the works. As you see, Brandon Bennett going for a really late entry into the pits there. And as you can see, it went wrong for him. Now, we don't have the best of camera angles to utilise here today, which is unfortunate. Hopefully things can get a little bit better for these camera angles. As we see Brandon Bennett and Thomas Harmon coming back out onto the track now. So at the moment the top time is set by points leader Jonathan Hernandez at 21.635, as we see Brandon Bennett getting it wrong again and getting smashed by Frank Isaacson there on the front straight. This camera angle is definitely no good. And that's how you adjust camera angles on the fly. As we see the 8 of Frank Isaacson coming back out onto the track now. 7 of Brian Harris around his outside. Brian Harris is a streamer. Streams under the Twitch handle of best shots with a 0 instead of an O in shots. So we've got Jonathan Hernandez on the point right now, Thomas Harmon second, Jaron Sanchez up into third so far overall, Matt Burgess in fourth, Brian Pizzicami timed in fifth with a 21.816. Now draft might not look like it's very important here as we see Thomas Harmon spinning out, but the draft is actually quite important for a quick time around here. Drivers like Jonathan Hernandez and Thomas Harmon don't necessarily need to utilise the draft to get their quick times. As we see now, Brandon Bennett in the 1 going underneath Mark Pentecup in the 5. Mark looks like he's just running it fairly easy there on the outside. Just trying to work on a long run maybe. We see Jonathan Hernandez going for a spin there, coming off of turn 3. It's a weird place for him to have a spin. Back on the 8 of Frank Isaacson, who's coming up to the back of the 7 of Brian Harris. Right behind them is Jerry Glenn. Jerry now with a big run on Frank. Pulls down to the inside. Can he get him cleared before the exit? He can indeed. I think Frank might have actually lifted there a little bit to allow that maneuver to take place. Frank now dives back down the inside. Doesn't have enough to get him up there. And Jerry now runs away with it. And right behind Frank is the current timed leader in Jonathan Hernandez. He sticks his nose up the inside. Gets the move done on the inside of turn 1. Frank being on older tyres at this point is definitely showing that he's not got the pace of some of these other guys at the moment. As I see Mark Penticup there on the outside, getting into the wall a little bit. But Thomas Harmon and Matt Burgess on the screen as well. Thomas down on the apron, looks like he's going to practice a pit entry. Nope, he's just running low. Now we've got Jaron Sanchez on the screen as he's right up behind Jonathan Hernandez. Jaron hoping for a good result here today. So far he's looking the goods, being third in practice. Pushing that new Mustang to its limits. He got the easy pass there on Jonathan. But will it translate into a fast time? Let's see what he does when he comes across the line. Does a 22.050, which does not elevate him up the list yet. But it looks like, in the grand scheme of things, the track has slowed down a little bit with the sun being on it. Now we're about 10 minutes away from the start of qualifying. You see Jaron Sanchez going down to the apron. Going to go to the pits, get a fresh set and reset himself. Maybe for some qualifying simulation. Tyres are definitely going to be a factor here. We did a practice race yesterday and the tyre fall off was pretty severe and fairly quick. You see Jonathan Hernandez went for a run at the pit lane entry and got it a little bit wrong there. You see the 7 of Brian Harris, the 38 of Thomas Harmon. Thomas practicing his pit entry, drifted it in. I think he might have ended up with a penalty after that one actually. As we now see it in 95 of Caleb Finn making his way out onto the track. Hasn't set a time yet, but it'll be interesting to see what he can pull up. He's also running the new Mustang as is Charles Becker in the 16. Let's see what these guys can do as far as the lap time goes. Caleb running fairly high and diamonding off on exit. Charles running the low way all the way around. Caleb Finn only slots into 14th with a 22.361. And Charles managed to do a 22.118 on that last lap. I'm hoping these guys look at doing one more pit party so we can get the outside view of what the race is going to look like here. Looks like the 5 and the 16 still pushing very hard here. As it looks like most other people haven't retired to the pits. Oh! Mark Pentecoff. Looked like something broke in the car and he nailed the wall in turn 3. And it looks like we are indeed getting another pit party here. So this will be able to give us a good indication of where things are going to be like as far as the race goes. I see everyone thundering out onto the track now, getting themselves sorted out. Looks like we've got the 7 of Brian Harris on the pole. And they are off and racing now. Oh, the wheel spin is dramatic, and the 7 has got it wrong, and he has caused the biggest pile up there on the start. I think I saw some more action going on. We've got the 98 of Jerry Glenn involved. I didn't see who else was in it. Here's Thomas Harmon. I think he's in about 4th as far as the pit party here goes. He's right behind the 95 of Caleb Finn. Up in front. Oh, there's contact. Looks like they both got away with it. Looks like we've got Brandon Bennett in the lead of the pit party. Jonathan Hernandez in 2nd right now, pushing him. Oh! And it's gone wrong. The bump drafting into the corner did not work. That just took out a few guys there. Some incredible impacts. This is one of the rare tracks where, even though it's not a super speedway, you can definitely get those super speedway-like wrecks. Right, so we've got about 4.5 minutes left here in practice. At the moment, it's still Jonathan Hernandez on top, Thomas Harmon, Brian Pizzakemi, and Jaron Sanchez in fourth. Alright guys, we're going to duck off for a quick commercial break, and when we come back it should just about be time to start qualifying, so make sure you stick around for that. Alright, we're back, and with the greatest miscalculation in the world, we're still in practice. We've got 2 minutes left in the practice session now. I forgot how long that league video was. It's just not quite long enough to last that as long as I was hoping for it to. You see the boys now pushing very hard, trying to get every little bit of performance that they can before the end of this practice session. See Frank attempting his pit entry. Nice, calm and controlled. Nailed the entry there. Looks like we've got Caleb Finn coming back out on track, and we've also got Jerry Glenn out on track as well. Looks like everyone else is generally just in the pits. Brian Harris is about to come back out on track as well. Just 45 seconds left in practice here. These guys just getting that extra little bit of track time. Brian Harris with a big inside dive on Jerry. That new tyre advantage is pretty massive. It'll be interesting to see how the strategy unfolds as far as the tyres go. Because we could see some fairly early cautions with some of the guys who are not quite up to skill with the way to handle the older tyres here. In saying that, we might very well also see a start crash, as we see Brian getting the pit entry there wrong, and now he's reversing backwards down the pit lane. Right, that is going to end out qualifying there. Practice, sorry. And now we're on to qualifying. Now we do have the group qualifying here for this season. Let's see what these guys can do with that little bit of draft. See who's picked the right moment to come out. Looks like Jaren's going to have himself a good position, being right behind Jonathan Hernandez there. And as you can also see, the track does have that bit of cloud cover on it. That means the track is going to be cool and in excellent shape. And Jonathan Hernandez coming up behind a slower car there. That was the 22 of Brandon C. Miller making his return to the Output Racing League. It's good to see Brandon back. He is a beast when it comes to making your tyres last. Alright, we've got some times in at the moment. Jonathan Hernandez standing on top with a 21.573. Matt Burgess was in second, now relegated to third, in fact fourth. And we see Travis Masia has got it wrong here in qualifying. Looks like he had a spin coming off of turn 2 there. Brandon Miller is down in P11 at the moment. Jaren Sanchez is in 7th, does not improve on his time. As I said, the tyre fall off is pretty severe here and can happen in just a couple of laps. See Frank Isaacson now on the screen. Right behind him is Brian Pizzacami. As you see, Jaren coming out behind Jerry Glenn. Oh no, Jerry right in front of Frank. That's going to hurt Frank's time a little bit. Jerry now goes underneath Frank after holding him up. Frank was almost going to do the crossover, but Jaren was there with his fresher tyres. That's going to hurt Jaren's lap too. Frank's moved himself up into P8. Jaren still sits P7. Thomas Harmon now has the top time with a 21.429. He has beaten Jonathan Hernandez by 0.144 of a second. You see, it's all action stations right now, as everyone wants to try and find their little piece of road and also a good drafting partner to sit behind. Thomas Harmon by Jonathan Hernandez, Ashton Schleiss, Charles Becker, Jerry Glenn, Matt Burgess, Logan Lansford, Jaren Sanchez, Travis Masia, Frank Isaacson, Brandon Bennett, Brian Harris, Caleb Finn, Brian Pizzacami, Brandon C. Miller, and Mark Pensicup rounding out the top 16 at the moment. As we've seen there, Brandon Miller just getting into the wall off turn 2 a little bit in his brand new Mustang. And that is going to wrap up qualifying right there. Time is up now. There's only just enough time left for people who are on a lap to finish their laps. Oh, so we see Brian Harris getting into the wall there. Almost came down into Frank. that is the end of qualifying. Now it's time to set the grid here for round number 7 of the Output Racing League here from the Dover International Speedway. So we're going to kick things off with our front row, which will be the 38. Sorry, I've just got to find a good camera angle for this. That one. We've got the 38 of Thomas Harmon. On his outside will be the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez. On row number 2 will be the 68 of Ashton Schließ. And on his outside will be the 16 of Charles Becker. Row 3 will see the 98 of Jerry Glenn. And on his outside will be the 12 of Matt Burgess. Then we're going to have the 42 of Logan Lansford and the 4 of Jaron Sanchez. Then we're going to see Travis Massier in the 13 coming out of P9, and on his outside will be the 8 of Frank Isaacson. We're going to have Brandon Bennett in the 1 out of 11th with the 7 of Brian Harris on his outside. The next row will have the 95 of Caleb Finn coming out of 13th with the 78 of Brian Pizzakemi coming out of 14th. Then we're going to have the 22 of Brandon Miller coming out of 15th. And out of 16th will be the 5 of Mark Pentecoff. Now we're going to have the 28 of Brandon Stevens coming off of 17th with the 21 of Brian Chambliss bringing up the rear. 18 drivers on track, including myself as the 19th driver. We have a strength of field here today of 2063 as we get ready to take on 120 laps of this man-made hell known as the Dover International Speedway. Now we see the cars are starting to move away. Pace car is in. On the first start we go on green, all the rest of the restarts we go on the leader. Green flag in the air, we are off and racing. Round number 7 of the Output Racing League from the Dover International Speedway. Thomas Harmon has already slotted himself immediately into the lead. Jonathan Hernandez in second, but Ashton Schließ is definitely putting the pressure onto Jonathan there. Just behind these guys, we do have a little bit of a battle forming by the looks of things. I just gotta see who it is. Looked like the 16 of Charles Becker was in that, and Logan Lansford. Looks like they're somewhat settled now, but they might not be in a few laps' time. We go back to looking at our leaders right now. Thomas Harmon definitely has control of the race at the moment. Jonathan Hernandez looking threatening, but it looks like he just doesn't quite have the speed to mount an attack on Thomas just yet. And Ashton looks like he is just fairly content with sitting there in third for the moment. And right up behind these guys, we do have Jerry Glenn falling into the clutches of Logan Lansford. It looks like Logan might have made a little bit of a mistake because he fell off from behind the Jerry there for just a split second. And he was almost in the clutches of the 16 of Charles Becker. How close these guys are driving right now, it's going to be very, very difficult to make a mistake. Because if you make a mistake, it could spell disaster with the accordion effect. As we see behind these guys, we do have a battle forming. Got the 13 of Travis Massey and the 1 of Brandon Bennett. Brandon just taking that 9th position away from Travis. Looks like these guys have gotten themselves sorted out now. So we're going to go back up a little bit. We got a battle going on here. Logan is falling off the pace quickly here. He's been passed by Charles Becker. He's going to just about be passed by Matt Burgess here, coming off of turn 2. And he's also got Jaron Sanchez lurking there in the background. Jaron inside of Logan at the moment. Didn't quite have the legs to get that move done as Logan uses the momentum up high. And we have a caution out. Oh, I seen the 22 of Brandon Miller is involved. So is the 21 of Brian Chambliss. Let's back this up a little bit, see if we can see what's happened. Oh, Brandon just got into the wall there coming off of turn 4. Brian Chambliss, the unfortunate innocent victim in that incident. That sucks for both of those drivers. Brandon missing the entire front clip of his car there. Brian's car doesn't look a little too bad. It's a little bit scuffed up there, but it should buff out. You can see the leaders are making their way to pit road now. As I said, the tyre fall off here is incredible. So it's really not a surprise to see these guys pitting, although in saying that, Brian Harris staying out. And even Brandon Miller staying out. I'm actually really surprised to see Brandon stay out after he was involved in that incident. Let's see how things unfold here. It looks like Mark Pentecoff actually beat everyone off of pit road. He must have just gone for 2 tyres. Either that or he didn't pit because he must have missed his pit box. I'm looking at my telemetry here and he's not showing any time spent in the pit box. So my assumption would actually be that he's missed his pit box. It looks like Brian Harris stayed out to get the 5 bonus points, or I think it's, I'm not sure how many bonus points it is, but to get the bonus points for leading a lap. It looks like the 5 of Mark Pentecoff is coming back down too, so that would definitely confirm that he did indeed miss his pit box. Brandon Miller in the pits as well. I think he was just trying to get as close to the front as he could, so he could get his damage repaired. We're going back to focus on the front of this pack now as they're coming off turn 2. Brandon trying to desperately get those repairs done to his car. Let's have a look from this view because we'll be able to see the pace car coming off of turn 4. And it looks like he's got the red Power Rangers as his crew there. They're sitting there chatting away, having a laugh, even though they should be working on the car. You see the pace car coming off turn 4, Brandon coming back out onto track. Running a lot of camber on that left front tyre now. Still no front clip though. And saying that the lights have now just gone out on the pace car, which means that we're at 1 lap to green. It looks like we've had a myriad of other people going back into the pits now. Just trying to get those slightly fresher tyres and to stay at the back of the pack. Pace car's gone in. The start will be on Thomas Harmon. And we are off and racing.
Go, go, go. Green flag.
The ever smart Thomas Harmon electing to start the race in the corner where the guys will have the most amount of grip. Now let's go up into the Aussie Sim commentator chopper. Have a look at some of this action. Thomas holding a nice lead over the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez, who is experimenting with alternate dimensions to try and gain an advantage. Doesn't look like that's quite working out for Jonathan though. As we are now going to go to the nose cam of Jonathan's car. As we look at the back of Jonathan Hernandez. Here the throttle control there is absolutely on point. These guys definitely know what they're doing. Now we're going to go have a quick little look here back further in the pack. Got a battle pack here with Ashton just starting to clear away a little bit. Jerry Glenn in 4th. Jaron Sanchez in 5th with Matt Burgess in P6. And Travis Massier sitting there in 7th. Just off from these guys a little bit. I called this a battle pack, but they don't seem to be doing too much actual battling. They're just trying to get into a rhythm, trying to get into a groove. So Jaron's moving up the track a little bit, maybe to try and save his tyres a little bit, hoping for a long green flag run. And right on the tail of these guys is the one of Brandon Bennett. Just over a second and a half behind them is the 7 of Brian Harris. And a little bit of no man's land all by himself. And back in 10th place, we have the 16 of Charles Becker, who is only just in front of Logan Lansford and Brian Chambliss, but it looks like he actually pulled a little bit of a gap on them there. Might have had a bit of a sniff of the draft from Brian Harris. In fact, he is closed right up to the back of Brian there. Can he make a move? He does, to the inside. Brian going very high to give him all the room in the world. Brian has now slipped down to 10th. As we're going to look further back behind these guys, we have the 8 of Frank Isaacson locked in a battle with the 28 of Brandon Stevens and Brian Pizzicami. And just behind these guys is actually the 5 of Mark Pentecoff. Just biding his time a little bit as Brian Pizzicami makes a big inside move on Brandon Stevens there. And he had so much momentum on the low side, it actually brought him up to the side of Frank as well. And he takes both of those positions, and Brandon follows him past Frank. Frank's hit the wall! Oh no, that is disastrous for Frank, coming off of turn 4. And that has brought out the caution flag here for the second time. Oh, that is very unfortunate for the Autism Speaks number 8. Of Frank Isaacson. Manages to get rolling before Thomas got to him, but yeah, that is going to severely hurt his car. As we see everyone starting to line up behind the pace car now, I would expect everyone to come back into the pits, because that is the state of the tyre wear here at this track. We'll also be fairly eager to see if anyone actually stays out here looking for them bonus points. And it looks like we do have a taker to stay out, which is the 42 of Logan Lansford. Getting those bonus points for leading the lap. As we see everyone else file into the pits. Looks like Jonathan's still playing second fiddle to Thomas there, coming out just behind him. Oh, and Ashton Slice is spending a bit of extra time in the pits there. Looks like he might have some damage that he's getting fixed. And Logan now makes his way to the pits. He just wanted to lead the lap and get the bonus points. Brandon has been going in and out of the pits to get his previous damage fixed. That's Brandon Miller, of course. He still does not have the front clip on his car. Looks like the crew just couldn't get it prepared in time. As we're going to go back to looking at the front of this pack, we should be at 2 to go here. Frank Isaacson's still in the pits. Let's go have a quick check at the Discord. It does not look like he is wanting to chat at the moment. So he's getting his car worked on. As we are on Wonder Green. Alright, the pace car is in. And we are off and racing again.
Go, go, go. Green flag.
I've only just gone a quarter of the way through this race. We've had 2 cautions. And it looks like we actually have a battle for P2. Jonathan Hernandez on the outside. Jerry Glenn getting a big run on the inside of him. Couldn't quite get the move done just yet though. And Jonathan holds on the outside. Wow. Jerry Glenn now under attack from the 4 of Jaron Sanchez and the 12 of Matt Burgess. Matt and Jaron did just leapfrog each other, so Jaron's been relegated back to the 5th position. But Jerry under siege right now from the ever-looming 12 of Matt Burgess, who sends it up the inside in his tied Mustang. Takes the position quite easily coming off of turn 4 there. Jaron's now fancying his chances. Goes for an inside move as well. Couldn't quite get it done as easily as what Matt Burgess did. Gives Jerry plenty of room there on the outside. Gets it done on the entry to turn 3. And just like that, Jerry has gone from battling for 2nd down to 5th. As we're going to go and check back in with our leader now. He has amassed himself a little bit of a gap over Jonathan, since Jonathan had that little bit of a battle with Jerry. And seems like it's definitely working out well for him at the moment. But still right behind them, this battle is ever looming between the 12 and the 4 of Matt and Jaron respectively. And it looks like we've got another battle forming in the back here. The 7 of Brian Harris is getting absolutely pressured by the 16 of Charles Becker. But Charles is now under pressure from the 21 of Brian Chambliss, the man that we saw involved in that incident with Brandon Miller earlier. Brandon has now slotted himself up into the 9th position, right behind the 7 of Brian Harris there. So very shortly we could see some Brian on Brian action. Looks like for the moment Chambliss is content with sitting behind Harris. I spoke too soon. He's going for the big inside move now. I think Brian Harris had a terrible run coming out of turn 4 there. But Brian holds on strong around the outside. And And just in front of these guys, we've got another battle as well. One of Brandon Bennett and the 13 of Travis Messia. And we have another caution. I'm not sure what this one is for. I think this one might have involved Ashton Schleiss. Let's stick to him and go back and have a look. And it indeed was a self-crash by Ashton Schleiss there. Just coming off turn 4 a little bit too hard. Hit the wall. Has gone for a big spin down to the inside of the track. Just hits the inside wall there with the nose as well. That's not good. That could hinder the cooling for his car. As we go back and check in with our leaders, they're all coming into the pits again, with the exception of Brandon Stevens in the 28 car, who decided to stay out and get the leader lap bonus points. Now this helps out Frank Isaacson a little bit. He's 15 laps down. As we see Jonathan Hernandez getting beaten off pit road again by Thomas Harmon. And Brandon Stevens actually electing to stay out here. This is a very interesting decision by Brandon. And just like the problem of where we have too many Bryans, we also have too many Brandons. I'm just having a quick little look through the list. We've got Brandon Stevens, Brandon Miller, and Brandon Bennett. Just like we have Brian Harris, Brian Chambliss, Brian Pizzicami. We need more Franks. And it looks like Ashton Schleiss has exited stage left from this race. And we do indeed see Brandon Stevens still staying out, as it looks like we're coming to Wonder Green now. The lights are out on the pace car. We are indeed Wonder Green. Well, let's see how this will work out for Brandon Stevens here. Very tricky situation he's put himself in. And we're just going to stay here focused on him. We're actually going to watch this restart from the blimp. Oh, the blimp's terrible. The blimp is in a terrible position. Alright, we're going to watch this one from the chopper. pace car is in. And we are off and racing.
Go, go, go. Green flag.
Brandon Stevens, to his credit, big restart there. Immediately goes outside lane to let Thomas Harmon through. We're going to stay here and watching Brandon for a little bit. Because with him having such older tyres, whereas everyone else has new tyres, we'll definitely put the cat amongst the pigeons. Also, I do apologise if I'm sniffing too much in this broadcast, guys. It is winter here in Australia, and I do have a little bit of the sniffles going. And just like that, Brandon Stevens has gone from leading this race to dropping back all the way down to 10th position. Even then, he might drop a little bit further here. We'll see the 5 and the 16 of Charles Becker and Mark Pentecoff coming up behind him now. Mark getting around him. And it looks like up ahead we've actually got a bit of a battle going on there. Travis Massier and the 13 starting to drop off a little bit. Getting passed by Brian Chambliss, still sporting some of that damage from his contact with Brandon Miller. As we are almost at the halfway point in this race now. We're working lap 52 of 120. Update on Brandon Stevens, he has fallen all the way back to the 14th position, just one in front of Brandon Miller. And even then, I say that's probably going to change fairly soon as well. Brandon on the fresher tyres. Still got no nose on it. Oh, we got another big crash. I see the 7 of Brian Harris is involved. So is the 16 of Charles Becker. We're going to go back and have a look at that. They're battling around with Logan Lansford there. Oh no, Brian Harris hit the wall on entry to the corner. That's not something we've seen yet, and unfortunately Charles Becker getting caught up in that. I think something also might have happened to the 5 of Mark Pentecoff. Let's have a look at his involvement in this. Oh, he just got into the back of Brian Pizzicami when they were checking out for the accident. And he's now in the pits. That's unfortunate. All the leaders are now coming into the pits. No one stayed out this time. And we do have Mark Pentecoff, who was out there on track. But that's because he had that damage that he received from hitting the back of Brian Pizzicami. So he'll probably be looking for a wave around here because he entered the pits too early. I don't think he's going to get it, actually. He's going into the pits. Still no one wanting to come in for a chat. Looks like they're just going to try and get their cars fixed and get back out on track. Frank Isaacson has actually gone 28 laps down, waiting for his car to get fixed. The Autism Speaks number 8. Now they should be going 1 to green this time by. The lights are out on the pace car. We're starting to go into the 2x2 formation again. Thomas Harmon, Jonathan Hernandez, Matt Burgess, Jaron Sanchez, Jerry Glenn, Brian Chambliss, Travis Massia, Brandon Bennett, Brandon Stevens, Brian Pizzakemi, Logan Lansford, Brandon Miller, Brian Harris, and Mark Penticuff. Wrap up your 14 runners left in this race. Mark Penticuff, the only car 1 lap down in 14th. As they're rounding turn 3 right now. And we're off and racing again. Thomas Harmon with a huge jump there, which allowed Matt Burgess to also get a pretty big jump on Jonathan Hernandez. Jonathan's going to have a hard time trying to hold him back. It's come thundering out of turn number 2. Jonathan Hernandez with a run up high takes that second place back with authority. Looks like things have fairly strung out here at the moment. Jonathan trying to look high on Thomas, didn't quite have a move looking there properly. Fell back into the clutches of the 12 of Matt Burgess a little bit. It looks like he's managing to get his momentum back up again. Jaron Sanchez going a little bit defensive there in front of Jerry Glenn. Just pulled down off the wall on the entry of the corner. As we are officially past halfway in this race. Jaron now trying to look for a way around Matt Burgess to try and take that 3rd position away. Jaron's been relegated back to 4th pretty much this entire race so far. Which means that he hasn't had the advantage of having the leader starting right in front of him. Right behind them is this snarling pack of cars. just behind these guys we have some of the more well-known boys in Logan Lansford and Brian Pizzicami. Just behind them is the returning Brandon Miller. And he's got Mark with him right there. Oh, as we had the 28 going really slow there on the inside of the track. I'm not sure what's happened. He stopped in the middle of the back straight. No caution. So obviously he's thrown up to the inside where it hasn't brought out a caution. See if we can see what's happened here. Why is he all of a sudden taking that action? It doesn't look like he's got a rhyme or a reason. He's just pulled the car down low. Could he be out of fuel? Let's go into his cockpit. No, sounds like he's still got engine. This definitely is a strange one. He is in the pits now though. So we're going to go back to looking at our leader here, the 38 of Thomas Harmon. It looks like very soon we might actually start to encounter some lap traffic. The 7 of Brian Harris. Only 6 seconds up the road from Thomas Harmon. Trying to see if I can find any information. I can't see any information on what was going on with the 28 there. And it looks like Jonathan Hernandez is starting to fall back away from Thomas a little bit. Same with Joan Sanchez, just falling off the tail of Matt Burgess that very little bit as the tyres are starting to wear out a little bit now. At 14 laps, this is probably one of the longer green flag runs we've had thus far. Looking just a little bit further back with Brian Chambliss, the 21. Logan Lansford and Brandon Bennett behind them. As we're going to go back to focusing on our leader because he is just 1.5 seconds behind the lapped car, well, soon to be lapped car of Brian Harris. If Brian Harris goes a lap down, that means that we will only have 11 cars left on the lead lap. As we've got another car stopped down low there. That's Who was that? That was possibly the 16? I'm not sure. The car does not seem to be stationary here on the front straight anymore. So that was definitely strange. Thomas Harmon and Jonathan Hernandez have now made their way around the 7 of Brian Harris, who has a fair few war wounds on his car after being the cause of his own accident there. Look at the 12 of Matt Burgess starting to catch up to him. And Brian Chambliss has made his way around Jaron to take the 4th position. Now don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Chambliss was involved in an incident with Brandon Miller earlier this race. As we see Matt Burgess experimenting with some alternate dimensions to try and gain an advantage. Brian Chambliss must have been saving his tyres something, because he has just pushed his way past Matt Burgess with quite the easy pass around Brian Harrison. Brian's back in the wall. Oh, he was so lucky there. He almost got spat off the wall right in front of Matt Burgess and Jaron Sanchez. Looks like Travis Massier has gotten around him as well. As you see, Thomas Harmon now coming up to some more lap traffic. He's got the laps car of Mark Penticup right in front of him now. Disposes of Mark pretty quickly there. Mark in this position after contact with Travis Massier, not Travis Massier, Brian Pizzicami, slowing up for the crash that Brian Harris was actually in. Next on the list of cars for Thomas to overtake is actually going to be the 22 of Brandon Miller. Still sporting some of that damage from earlier in the race. Let's go and have a quick little look at Brian Chambliss here. He's definitely getting a wiggle on. Lapping a little bit faster than Jonathan Hernandez. He was 0.2 faster than Hernandez on that last lap. But Thomas Harmon's the fastest of them all. Looks like in the background we've actually got a battle for Jaron Sanchez up on the inside of Matt Burgess. Matt just about kissing the wall there on the exit of turn 4. Travis Massier wants in this battle as well. I think Travis might have been saving his tyres a little bit. And Matt Burgess, just about contact there between the 12 and 13 cars. But Matt has just dropped from 3rd all the way back to P6. But he's not going to go down quietly. Oh no! Big crash there. Oh no, and the 42 of Logan Lansford nowhere to go. Oh, Travis Massier got into the wall on the exit on turn 2 and took out Matt, who was mounting the challenge on the inside. And Logan Lansford nowhere to go, blinded by the car in front of him. Just tapping the back of Matt Burgess there. Matt gets it fired back up and going again. But he might have lost a lap to the leaders. This is going to mean that Brandon Miller is going to be the recipient of the lucky dog. As we see the leaders down on pit road. And as we see that, then Brandon Miller does indeed get his lucky dog wave around. We're 3/4 of the way through this race now, just 29 laps to go. Jaron Sanchez has actually snuck his way up into the 3rd position here. Looks like that would be because Brian Chambliss probably pitted before the start-finish line. So timing and scoring just needs to wait a second to update a little bit. So this is going to set up a very interesting situation here. 29 laps to go as they come across the line this time. Because the tyre wear is not too great, as we've seen. But that could mean that if we go green for the rest of this race, we could see some strategy at play where someone might come into the pits just for the fresh tyres, because I'm pretty sure they can last the rest of the way on fuel. So fuel is definitely not going to be the issue. But the tyre wear, on the other hand, definitely might be. And you see the 8 and the 5 out the front there. The 8 of Frank Isaacson is back in the race, ladies and gentlemen. He is half the race behind the leaders, 60 laps down. I'm glad to see Frank back out on track. Even if he does only complete half the race, he'll still earn some points for finishing, I do believe. We're on 1 to green now, so these 2-lap cars are going to get the wave around. There's the 8 and the 5, so as I said, Frank is going to be 60 laps down and Mark is now only 1 lap down. Let's see what we can get on this restart here. We only have 9 cars left on the lead lap as it stands. Travis Massier is the last car on the lead lap. The pace car is in, and we are off and racing again. Thomas with another big jump.
Go, go, go. Green flag.
Brian Chambliss and Jaron Sanchez battling it out to try and see who's going to get that 3rd position. Looks like Brian has got the advantage there. And it looks like Jonathan Hernandez trying to mount a move on the outside of Thomas Harmon. He's there. He has the nose on the outside. There is overlap. But he just doesn't have it going into the corner. Thomas fought back and took the lead quite convincingly back from Jonathan Hernandez there. Now Jonathan's got to be careful because Brian Chambliss is looking very racy there on the inside. Jonathan getting into the wall on the exit of turn 4. As I said, this is definitely starting to get interesting now, ladies and gentlemen. Jonathan has slipped back to 3rd, and now he could be at the threat of going to 4th with Jaron Sanchez for the first time in longer than I can remember, having a great run up here in the top 5. And we could very well see the league owner and operator take a podium position here, especially if Jonathan experiments with these alternate dimensions too much. Jaron now just slowing up a little bit, looking like they just want to stay in a kind of formation here. We're going to go through the field a little bit more, see what's going on. Got the one of Brandon Bendit and the 78 of Brian Pizzakemi there in 5th and 6th respectively. Brian trying to look for a way around Brandon. Doesn't look like he can find his way around at the moment. Behind these guys we have the 98 of Jerry Glenn, and right behind him in 8th position is actually the 22 of Brandon Miller. Right behind Brandon is the 13 of Travis Massier, who has the lap down car, the 12 of Matt Burgess coming up his inside. Matt Burgess is actually positioned right now to be the lucky dog if another caution were to come out in the very near future. But as Thomas Harmon crosses the line this time, we're only going to have 20 laps to go in this race. Thomas looking very comfortable out here in the lead, hasn't put a foot wrong the entire race. The only laps that he hasn't led were laps where some cars from back in the pack decided to stay out when everyone else pitted under caution. Apart from that, Thomas has led every single green flag lap as he goes around the 5 of Mark Pentecoff to put him another lap down. Mark Pentecoff is on 45 lap old tyres. I don't know, I probably would have just pitted. A 45 lap old tyres, that is crazy. Next on Thomas Harmon's list of people to pass will be the 8 of Frank Isaacson. 60 laps down, 15 lap old tyres at the moment. Only 1 lap older than the tyres that the leaders have. Now we see the fast time for the last lap was a 22.435 set by Thomas Harmon. As we're going to go look at this battle for 3rd, Jaron Sanchez just still sitting there right behind Jonathan Hernandez. Jaron's definitely looking very racy here. Much racier than he has looked pretty much this entire season. As we see Jaron just show the nose down low a little bit, trying to make Jonathan go up high. And Frank has indeed been put another lap down, who is also up into 16th position now because of the ejection of Ashton Schleiss from the race. Jaron now getting that inside run on Jonathan Hernandez. Jonathan staying up high, trying to get the momentum going. Just had enough momentum to stay in front of Jaron there. I reckon by the end of this race, it's all going to be down to who's got the better tyres. Jaron looking like he's been looking after his tyres just a little bit better than Jonathan at the moment, as they're starting to come up to the back of the lap down car of Frank Isaacson. Oh, and Frank hits the wall right in front of these two. And he's now gone down to the inside wall. That was scary. I'm pretty sure Jonathan Hernandez might have just pooped himself a little bit. Frank's car is still going though. We're going to go back to having a look at our leader. The next car on his list is the 7 of Brian Harris. We're within 10 laps to go, 9 as he crosses the line here. And with these laps only taken in about 23 seconds, we're getting 2 laps per minute. Got about 3 minutes left in this race, if he can keep this pace up, which, knowing Thomas, is a very real possibility. Thomas now faced with a wall of lapped cars as Mark Pentecoff is the point man for the next one to be overtaken. Thomas down low. Mark stayed right up high there just to allow ample room for Thomas to get by, just in case Thomas didn't want to run that lowest line. Brian Harris now staying up high to allow Thomas to move down low. I had to hold my breath a little bit there because Brian hasn't really been holding it the best on the outside there. As we come across the line this time by... Oh no, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're only through turn 2. As we go through 3 and 4, when Thomas comes across the line this time, we're only going to have 5 laps left in this race. Just under 2 minutes of driving to go. The fast time for the last lap was actually done by Brian Pizzakemi. Oh, and there's a big crash here on the back straight. Brandon Miller and Travis Massier were in it, and that has brought out a caution flag. Our new addition for this second half of the season is green-white checkered. So we're going to have the first green-white checker of the ORL history. As we're going to go back and see what's happened here. Travis mounting a move on the inside of Brandon. Oh, just gave him a tap before the exit of turn 2. And that has sent both of them off into the wall. That caution flag took a while to come out. I think that's because, yeah, Travis struggled to regain control of his car. So he gassed it up there and turned back into the track. And that's what brought out the caution. It looks like no one is pitting. Brian Pizzakemi and Brandon Bennett have both hit the pits. And it looks like Brandon Miller has been able to retain his lead lap status. No green-white checker? Alrighty. So I was wrong there, so it looks like this will actually indeed be the end of the race here. We don't like to see them end under caution, but unfortunately that is just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I found out news to what happened to Brandon Stevens before. His wheel and pedals went dead on him. So that is definitely a strange one for him. I can confirm we are definitely not going to get a restart to this race. So that means the winner will be the 38 of Thomas Harmon, second place with the 21 of Brian Chambliss, and third is going to be the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez. I'm going to have to go back through and see who the hard charger is going to be. At the moment it looks like it's going to be Brandon Miller, because I don't think Brian Chambliss actually laid down a lap time in qualifying. As they come around to start the final lap under the caution flag here. Maybe, possibly. As I said, I'll have to check through it. Some of the race officials getting in my ear. I have to yell back at them. Alrighty, as they're coming out of turn 4 this time by Thomas Harmon with the big win here. Brian Chambliss P2, Jonathan Hernandez 3rd, and Jaron Sanchez in P4. Alrighty guys, we are just going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will have the winners' interviews. So stick around for that. Alright, 78, 4, 88, 21, 38. I need you guys to come into the box. Alrighty guys, we are back. We're going to kick things off with the Hard Charger Award. And today's Hard Charger is going to be the 78 of Brian Pizzakemi. I love stuffing up your name. Alright Brian, Hard Charger going from 14th to P6. How was the race for you, man? Because it always seemed that you were there or thereabouts throughout the race. Even with the hard whack you got in the back from Mark during one of those caution periods.
Right. Well, I have to say Dover is not my favorite track. It took forever to actually get a rhythm down for this track. And it felt like as soon as I would get something, either a caution would come out or I'd smack the wall. And I felt bad for Mark and for Logan. Both of them actually rear-ended me in checking up for wrecks. And they were both doing great. So I want to apologize for them. I didn't mean to be in the way, but there's always next week.
Well, that is right. There is always next week, but I guess when it comes to a checkup situation like what you guys were experiencing, there's not terribly much that one could do, especially when racing in such close quarters like that.
Right, and this track, I feel like, is one of those that checking up for a wreck is kind of like really hard because everyone just seems to gather together really fast out of the corner.
And it must be especially hard with how tight the cars can get as well. Like especially if like a crash happens in the middle of a straightaway, because how tight the cars get on exit, and I just want to steer towards those walls. Yeah, it must be pretty hard for you guys to check up in time.
I mean, it just makes passing super hard after tires wear out.
Now let's talk about the passing aspect of everything. Because you are the hard charger, so that means technically you passed the most cars. How was the race for you as a whole?
The race went pretty well. I mean, going back to tires wearing off, as soon as that happened, passing became a bit of a problem. It's like you can't dive in like you want, and if you're next to someone, you're lifting throughout the whole entire corner, hoping you don't slide up and hit them. And that was like the most difficult part of the whole night.
Alright, man. Well, while we got you here in the booth, anyone you'd like to thank for helping you out here tonight?
I would like to thank, obviously, you, Corey, for hosting or broadcasting this. Doing an amazing job. Jaron for hosting this league. Logan for actually helping me kind of get through the traffic for a bit. He and I were doing a great job of just riding and going through.
Alright, awesome, man. Well, congratulations on the Hard Charger Award, and we'll see you again next week.
All right, thank you, Corey.
Alright, guys, so that was the 78 of Brian Pizzakemi. Coming up next, he probably didn't even realize that he was going to be getting talked to today, and we'll probably talk to him again after we've had all the interviews. But right now we're going to talk to him as a driver. We are going to be talking to the 4 of league owner and operator, Mr. Jaron Sanchez.
How's it going?
Not too bad, mate. Now, you had a fairly good run today. We noticed that you were in the top 5 for pretty much most of the race.
Yeah, I was trying real hard just to mind my P's and Q's out there and be clean and finish the race good, because I've had some bad races, so I was just wanting to finish good, and I was hoping I could pass Jonathan there at the end, but maybe if it would have went green, I don't know. But yeah, that's the way she goes.
Yeah, well, we noticed that you guys were battling pretty hard there in that last stint, and it looked like you were just trying to save your tyres a little bit to try and get a run on him late. So
yeah, I was just trying to figure out how to get that perfect run on him where I can get out of the corner ahead of him too, because I can dive it in on the corner, but then he's just gonna get that run off me out of the corner. So I was trying to get that perfect run in and get the run out, but I was almost figuring it out, and I think I would have had it, but just needed a couple more laps.
Now you haven't had the best of seasons here so far.
No,
Would you
sir.
would you say that your change in luck today may be due to the change of car since we have upgraded to the Mustang from the Fusion?
Yeah, I think they did a lot of updates to in that last update of the package because Arrow Push is not nearly as bad as it was. It was a lot easier. I had a lot funner time driving this car than I have been all season fighting that Arrow Push. So uh, I like it a lot more now. I'm a happy camper. So trying to turn a new leaf this season, and I think I might have done that.
Alright, man, well, while we got you up in the booth, who you got to thank?
Oh yeah, all the drivers come out and race with us, and we all have a good time all the time. And you for doing the broadcast, of course. My wife for putting up with this crap, and you know, pretty much it there.
Alright, man, well, I'll get you to stick around in the waiting room now. We'll have another chat to you after all the rest of the interviews. And,
All right, man. Thank you.
yeah, we'll see you then. Everyone, that was
Alrighty.
the number 4 of Jaron Sanchez, league owner and operator. 4th place tonight. Good on him. Alrighty, coming up next, a man who needs no introduction, except for this one. New points leader. Of course, we're talking to the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez. Jonathan, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing good. Little glad that this race is over with because I knew coming in it was gonna be Thomas's race, but I'm glad that we got a P3 so far and points lead.
Now, it looked like you were holding on to a solid second position there for 90% of the race. What happened at the very end there, where you lost second to Brian and where you almost actually lost the podium to Jaron?
Yeah, on that restart, I got a good run on Thomas and I got to his outside, but he just had a better run off the lap before, and I saw or not Brandon, Brian coming, and I knew he was gonna have a run coming off the corner, and so I decided to move up just a tad bit in case he needed to clear me. And when I did, I just got out of the group just a tad bit and barely scraped the wall, but it was enough to give me some damage and arrow effect. But luckily, caution came out right before Jaron had a run on me, and I was able to secure a P3.
Alright, awesome, man. So, how was the race for you as a whole? Just sitting up there in second, just in Thomas's shadow, so to speak, for pretty much the entire race.
Well, as a whole, coming into the race, my mindset was to at least finish a top 5. That way, I would have at least a good points lead over Thomas. But I didn't know coming into the race that I would qualify second and be second most of the race. I knew Thomas was going to be difficult coming in since this is essentially one of his favorite tracks. And but I'm glad I was able to keep up pace with him. And like I said, P3 I'll take. I was expecting at least a P5, but the cautions usually came into effect, especially during one of our long runs where we were coming close on pitting, and a short pit was coming up into mind for me. But the caution came out, and I was able to pit with everybody else and stay in sequence.
Alright, man. Well, while we got you up in the booth, who have you got to thank?
Well, first I want to thank Thomas, Jerry, everybody in output for the race. Everybody was racing clean today, and especially on a track that's narrow coming off the corners. All the lap cars and everybody calling out the crashes. I would also like to thank my my brother who y'all know is watching the stream, and if he's not, I don't know, he's gonna watch it in the morning. Uh, and also like to thank Jaron once again for this league, and now I could brag to him that I'm a points leader.
Awesome, awesome. Alright, man. Well, congratulations on P3 and capturing the points lead. And we'll see you next week at Pocono.
All right, Corey, thank you.
Alright, guys. That was the 88 of Jonathan Hernandez, points leader officially now. Coming up next, a bloke that we don't get to talk to too very often, and I used to butcher his name, but now I've got it pretty down packed. Of course, we're talking about the 21 of Brian Chambliss. Brian, What a race by you! An absolutely monstrous effort.
Oh yeah, I obviously you guys saw that early spin there. After that, I thought I was really done. I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna be running around because I had front end damage and minute optional, but luckily I was able to get most of it fixed there. And then once I got back out on track, I realized, hey, you're still pretty good. Let's keep charging here, and it kind of focused me, and I was able to drive around pretty much everybody. I didn't really pass anybody on pit road this week.
Well, yeah, it was absolutely incredible to watch. We did focus on you a few times throughout the race, and every time we focused on you, you were either just about to make a pass, in the process of making the pass, or just completed making the pass. So it looked like you had the very interesting race. What was it like for you trying to make those passes on older tires? Because we've talked to a couple of people so far. They said the older tires really killed them a bit.
I was driving a lot different line than a lot of people, and I found through racing some other leagues and doing some practice here that if you enter the corner, charge the corner harder, but enter lower, I was able to save the right front a lot. So I was basically trying to pin the thing to the bottom, and it was helping a lot. I was a lot faster than guys mid corner, and then I was able to hold even with them off the corner, and then I was getting them into the next corner. So it was just basically lining them up, trying to get a run out of the corner, so I could be there on their inside heading into the next, and I was able to take it most times.
Alright, now just between you and me, mate, if we had another 20 laps, do you reckon you would have had anything for Thomas?
I don't know. I don't think so. He was obviously pulling away from me there towards the end. I was really blowing my stuff off because I knew he was fast. I was trying to get to him. I needed to have a better restart on that last caution so that I could be behind him and not have to work around. I think it was Jonathan. Um, but once I fell back or stayed in third there, I knew it was going to be hard to get to Thomas because I needed to get in front of him early to be able to hold him off. Because I think if I were able to get in front of him, I'm not sure he'd been able to get around me. But shoulda, coulda, woulda. We're on to next week, so hopefully I can continue this. I've been having some good runs here, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, speaking of next week, we are heading to Pocono. What's your thoughts on racing at Pocono with the package being slightly different to how it was in week 12 when the official series ran Pocono?
Yeah, I haven't run it since then. I'm sure it's going to be a little different. I don't really care for Pocono as it is. I'm kind of decent there, but we're just really going to have to see through this next week here and doing some practicing and find out what we got. Like I said, hopefully we're able to continue this run here. So hopefully I can get up there and start challenging Thomas and these guys for that top spot and start running off some wins here.
Alrighty, man. Well, we know you got some people to thank, so while we got you up here, who have you got to thank?
Oh yeah, for sure. To start off, this league here is great. Jaron does a great job. Thank you for putting on this broadcast here. It's always interesting and fun, and you bring in a little different taste to it than some other leagues I run. So it's nice to see a little change of pace here. So I appreciate that.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much, man, and we look forward to seeing you next week in Pocono.
Yep, we'll see you then. Hopefully we'll be talking again.
Alrighty, guys, so that was the 21 of Brian Chambliss, our second place getter tonight. Coming up next, we have a man that doesn't even need any kind of introduction. And the absolutely dominant force when it comes to tracks like this. And, yeah, you know what? That's pretty much all we can say. Of course, it's the 38 of Thomas Harmon. Thomas,
Back.
you're back. You're in front. You dominated. And you're second in points.
It's good to have a race like that after a rough start to the season, and good to be back in second in points.
Now, we did notice there that Jonathan, sorry, even though he was second pretty much most of the race, On every single restart, he seemed to try and challenge you for the lead, but you just had that something special that allowed you to get past him. What was your secret?
I know how hard to push it to keep somebody behind you, or not to let them get past you, especially on an early run. Later run is hard to do when the tires get wore out, but you can still do it. But for the most part, after until the final restart, I kind of went into tire conservation mode immediately, just in case we got a long green flag run. And after about, I knew after about 5 to 10 laps, I'd start to pull on him.
Alrighty, man. Well, let's talk about the race as a whole, because there was a lot that happened in this race. A couple of quick cautions very early on, and then a couple of longer runs as the race started to progress. What was the mindset like, changing up between those short, quicker cautions and the long runs, knowing that in some of them you'd have to try and save your tires?
Um, I mean, it really wasn't much of a change for me. I normally always go into tire conservation mode, and um, Dover's easily my favorite track. Believe it or not, not Bristol, although I do love Bristol too. But um, I just I get Dover, and no matter how many laps are left or how many we have to go, I just feel like I can handle it and manage it just fine.
Alrighty, so I just asked Brian this. So next week we're going to Pocono. Um, what do you think is going to be some of the main differences between running Pocono next week with this newer, updated package compared to week 12 when the official series ran it?
Well, I guess somewhat of an unfair advantage because DRL runs that is running a makeup Pocono race the night before, so we'll be running with the new updated package as well, and I'll get that with some stiff competition, and they will definitely push me to the brink, and I'll take what I learned there and bring it on over to here, and hopefully come out with another win.
So does that mean that you're going to give any of the guys a little bit of a hint as to how to run it, or are you going to just keep all the secrets for yourself?
Uh, I think that'll depend on who's close to being during practice, and might give some of the slower guys a tip to help them out and make them competitive. Give the guys behind that are closer behind me something to some traffic or some competition to work them over and wear them.
Alrighty. So while we got you up here, who have you got to thank, man?
Shout out to you up in the booth for broadcasting it and let everybody watch the show that we put on, and Jaron for putting on the league, and all the guys that come out every week and allow us to have a fun time and joke during the race and not be mad at each other.
Alrighty, awesome. Thank you very much, Thomas, and congratulations on another absolutely dominant win.
Thank you, sir.
So there it is, guys. Thomas Harmon, maybe possibly giving some of the secrets away, but not too many, trying to keep everyone just at arm's length. Alright, so this will begin the wind down of the broadcast here. We're going to bring Jaron Sanchez back into the booth, putting on his league owner cap. Jaron, next week we're heading to Pocono. Big, wide open track with this slightly modified package compared to what we were running last season. It should be a fairly interesting race there, man.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of drafting gonna come into play, and it's gonna separate the boys from the men. But you know what? Last time we went there, we did a practice race, and there was a lot of aero push, and I was not happy. So the way it's looking this time, I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Well, that's good to hear. And then after that, we go to one of the shorter tracks on the calendar with Iowa. Was that a race that was in controversy last season?
Well, we all know Thomas is fast at Iowa, Bristol, and Dover, and instead of putting Bristol in there because that's a sure win, we put Iowa in there, which is probably going to be another sure win. But hopefully, someone can take him out. Well, not take him out, but make him come in second at least.
Well, we can only hope for some competition. Oh, trying to pick your words carefully there.
Yeah, we don't condone intentional wrecking.
No, we do not. So yeah, it should be an interesting next couple of weeks as we are starting to get into the business end of this season. Which is looking like a close battle coming up between Thomas and Jonathan here for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if Thomas can catch up and take Jonathan off the throne there as a points leader. He can do it. He's not ruled out yet. And then Pizzichemi is really not too far also, so see what they can do. And Burgess, I mean, anything can happen these last few weeks.
Alrighty. Well,
I'm out for the count myself, so.
Well, you never know. You could have the absolute breakthrough at the end of the season and just win everything there is to win from now on.
Doubt it.
I doubt it too, but hey, it's always good to dream.
Yep.
Alright, well, thank you very much for putting on the league, man. It's thoroughly enjoyable to broadcast, and we got a good group of guys.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I love it. I look forward to this every week.
Alrighty, guys. So this will end out the stream on behalf of Jaren, all the drivers, all the admin, and just everyone who helps out here in general. We'll see you guys next week at Pocono.
Sounds good.